Hello everyone, this is Ben with ERP Connect Consulting, and this is our second tutorial in the Getting Started with Business Central and Data Migration series. This video will review the base setup for your sales and receivables data, and we will review basic setup of configuration packages and what key fields to include when migrating data. So let's jump into our second session. If you do not have these base packages deployed that you're seeing on my screen, please reach out to our team and we can send for easy import. Once deployed, you will want to navigate to the second package labeled Sales and AR. In order to get here at any time, go up to the search and start typing in config. The second option in the pages and tasks will bring you into your configuration packages. We'll get started with the Sales and AR today. As we jump in here, you can see a handful of table IDs similar to what we saw in the financial package. You'll also notice that the fields included typically are not going to be all of the available fields. For example, on the item, we have 147 available fields. However, for the items that we're going to import today, we only need 9 fields to get started. If at any time you find that you need more fields than are in the base config, you can go into the specific table, click Clear Filter, click Edit List, and add in any field that you see fit prior to exporting to Excel, and at that time it will appear in the new Excel file that you're exporting. After you have everything set up correctly, click on Export in Excel and you should see a file that looks like this. Each tab will be in line with one table in our configuration package, and the main focus for today will be on these customers and these items. These additional tabs will play into the customers and items as we'll see here in a second, but we'll get started with the customer. So again, if you hover over the number or the name, you can see what type of field it is. In this case, it's a code indicating that it's a primary field on this table and that it has a character limit of 20 characters. These can be alphanumeric, as you can see. However, typically we set up an auto numbering system for things like customers as well as vendors. So this is indicating that it's a code and it can be no more than 20 characters. We also have some basic name, 100 characters, address, city, state, zip, phone number, and then ship to. This is the first one where we'll look at another tab. So on the ship to, these codes would be coming from this ship to tab. As you can see, customer 10,000 has 2 different ship tos. If I want the main ship to be Park Road, I can simply drop that in here. And now going forward, that will be the default ship to for customer 10,000. Now you only need these ship tos if the address differs from the main address that you see here. If the address is the same or they only have one address, there is no need for ship tos, but do want to show that in case they are needed. If we go back to the ship to, you can see kind of the same thing. You have the customer number and the code relationship, name, address information, some contact information, phone numbers, emails, tax areas, as well as tax liable, which we'll see here in a second on the customer as well. As we continue to go, you have an account number if it differs from the customer number that you have from a Business Central standpoint. If you want to add that in, you can add in default dimension codes for your customer. You can add in a credit limit. You can add in the customer posting group. We'll look at this in a second here. So if I start typing in customer posting, this will drive the AR account mainly that the customer is posting to. So it's very crucial that we set this up. In this case, I just have one called domestic. I would tag domestic to every customer in the system. And then 10400 would be the AR account that gets tagged every time I transact against any customer in the system. The next field, which we also have a tab down here for, is payment terms. So if we jump into the payment terms, some things to note here, there's a due date column as well as a discount date column. If we look at 1M8D, essentially these are going to be some shortcuts in Business Central, M indicating month, D indicating day. In this case, this payment term would be indicating that if you pay it within 1 month, that's kind of the baseline for when it's due. However, if you pay it within 8 days, you'll get a 2% discount. You can use these out-of-box payment terms or you can add your own. If you don't need any of these, you can delete them and it will delete them out of the system as well. Then we can go ahead and use those to tag the payment terms on the customer. Some additional fields here we're going to look at on the customer. You can tag a salesperson, which you just need to set up a list for in Business Central by searching for salesperson code. If they have a default payment method code, you can add that in here. We can also see that down here. We got some basic options like cash, card, check, stuff like that. You can also add balancing accounts, so either a GL or a bank account. That would be the default bank account that payment is going into if you set it up accordingly. The general business posting group, this will interact with the item posting group, which we'll see here in a second. But essentially, this is just going to help us drive what revenue accounts we're posting to when posting sales invoices to a customer item combination. We'll get into more of that later. For now, domestic should be fine. It's an out-of-box value that we can populate. And then you have some email information as well as tax area and tax liability if your customer is liable for sales tax. So that kind of exhausts things on the customer. Remember, at any time, you can simply hover over the header and it'll tell you what type of field it is as well as the character limit. Again, codes are going to be coming from another place in the system. So general business posting group, that's another setup table, that's a code. Payment method, that's a code. Salesperson, that's a code, versus some text fields like the email as well as the name and the search name. So now we'll get into items. Items, I've just set up one item for example today. It's a service item. We'll keep it pretty simple. Again, you're going to need an item number. That's going to be the code, 20 characters again here. You've got a description, 100 characters here that you can use. Base unit of measure, so that's going to come down from this table down here. So I've got days and hours set up in my table. You can set up other units of measure as you see fit. I've got a unit price, unit cost, and standard cost if you want to put in some kind of base values that'll pull into sales and purchase invoices if used. We don't need the costing method here on service items, but if this type, again, if I hover over the type, it's going to give me my options. I can have inventory, service, or non-inventory. In this case, we just have a service. If it was type 0 or inventory, we'd want to update the costing method accordingly. But again, we're just going to use service items for example today. And then the general product posting group, this is going to help drive where the revenue gets posted when you're selling this service item on a sales invoice. So we'll have another session on how to configure posting groups. But for now, you can just put services if we're mainly dealing with service items in this case. The last thing we'll want to touch on items is this item unit of measure. You just want the item number here, which is going to be a code from the item tab, to match whatever we have in the base unit of measure. Once you have all this set up, you should be good to go back into Business Central, go into this configuration package, and then you'd be able to go ahead and import it from Excel. Once you've imported it from Excel, you should be okay to go ahead and apply the package. Then once the package is applied, we should be done with the sales and accounts receivable setup and can move on to our next package, which is going to be purchasing and AP that you can see here. Thanks for joining our session today. If there's any other questions on getting started with Business Central, please feel free to reach out to our team at any time. Thank you.